It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. Today's show is brought to you by the Red, White, and Blue. And we're going to be talking with the Secretary of State, Mr. John Merrill. So get you a pen. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Appreciate you tuning in this week. Been trying to get this guy up here for a long time because it's amazing what he's doing. I can't keep up with him. If you've on his Facebook or anything, you know what I'm talking about. He's in 15 different locations in Alabama every day. His name is John Merrill. He's the Secretary of State. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ken. Great to be with you.
Good to be back. Good to have you up here, and I hope this is the beginning of a whole bunch of them.
Yes, sir.
All
We'd
right.
love
I
to
got
come
you
back.
on camera saying that.
Yes, sir. As often as the schedule will permit.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we after the show, then you might change your mind. But let's do some background on John Merrill. That people out there that's looking in. You're when I say local.
Yes, sir.
We're coming to you from the headquarters out here in Oxford, Alabama, and you're from local, I
Yes,
guess.
sir. Yes, sir.
What is local?
Well, I grew up in Heflin. My
right.
mom and dad raised me there, and my mom still lives there, and it's a great place to grow up. And of course, we came over here to Calhoun County all during the time that I was growing up, to the doctor and to go out
town.
to eat. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go to the movie. This was the place that we always came.
Yeah.
And my grandmother and granddaddy lived over here on Constantine, 1225 Constantine Avenue over in Anniston. And my dad's mother and father, my Mama and Pawpaw, they lived down in Macaville, down at the crossroads where Cleburne and Randolph come together. But this is home for me.
Drove through it the other day. I went to Alexander City to the Veterans Home down there for a
Yes,
meeting this past Monday, and go through all those little towns, the Goodwaters and Newtown, Newville, Goldville, and all those
Yes,
places.
sir.
Big
Yes, sir.
city down
Governor
there.
Patterson still lives down there in Goldville.
Absolutely. And your dad was Stanley Merrill.
Well,
not your dad.
my dad was Horace, who
Horace.
was the circuit clerk and probate
Yeah.
judge of Cleburne County for the first 18 years of my life. And then my Uncle Stanley was the chief of police and the director of public safety for Oxford.
What was Hugh Merrill?
And Hugh was one of our relatives. He was a first cousin to my pawpaw. And of course, he was in the legislature for 24 years.
Wow. So you've been, that lets people know that you've got some roots in this area.
Yes, sir.
The Secretary of State's office, I deal with it sometimes when it has to do with not-for-profit organizations, things like that. But what is the main purpose of it? Is it elections? Or?
Well, sure, this is the thing, and a lot of people, a lot of your viewers, I'm sure, don't really know that much about the Office of the Secretary of State. But Ken, the Office of the Secretary of State is the oldest office in the history of Alabama. Alabama had a Secretary of State before we were a state. In 1818, President James Monroe, who was our 5th president, appointed Henry Hitchcock.
I knew him very well.
To be Alabama's first secretary. And Henry Hitchcock served ably in that role in 1818 and 1819. Now, Alabama became the 22nd state admitted to the Union December 14th, 1819. We're coming up on our bicentennial. And since that time, we've had 48 individuals who served as Alabama's 53 secretaries of state. The code and the Constitution give more than 1,000 assigned duties and responsibilities to the person that holds this position.
How many?
1,000. And the things that we concentrated on the most when I was campaigning, and the things we've worked the hardest on since I've been the secretary, are elections, which includes voter registration, campaign finance reform, campaign finance, enforcement, all the things related to the elections process, business incorporations, licensing, trademarking, all the things to do with business entities in the state, and last but not least, international adoptions. Now, we've chosen those 3 areas because those are the 3 areas that most directly impact the lives of Alabama families each and every day. And we want to be responsive to Alabama families because we work for them, and we want the people in Alabama to know that we work for them.
Those folks that's out there that's never run for political office don't realize what is required. You've got to fill out the paperwork for the Fair Campaign Practices
Yes, sir.
Act. You have to do this at different increments, and if you don't do it in a timely manner,
you can be disqualified.
For office.
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, we've had 2 individuals who are from Calhoun County in the last decade or so who were actually disqualified because they failed to complete the paperwork appropriately, and that resulted in their disqualification.
I don't mind saying one of them that really hurt me bad because Ray Bryan.
Yes, sir.
And it was he's a very dear
Who's
friend
a
of
good
mine.
man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And
Doug G. was the other one.
Absolutely.
When Senator Marsh was first elected back in 1998, the substitute candidate to replace Senator G. was Cleophas Thomas. And that happened because of the way that the paperwork ended up not being filed appropriately in 1998.
Well, I'm on the state board. I have to file papers with the ethics. Basically the same thing as running for office. I have to tell you what I own, what I bought, what I've invested in.
Right.
And it gives, there is some kind of if you fill it out properly, it will tell something about the person, and it's open to the public can get this information.
Yes, sir.
That if somebody's running for office and they say they got this and they really got more, it can be traced down.
Yes, sir.
And that's a good thing that it's out there, but it also makes people come clean when they're doing that, because if they lie on it,
yes,
then they
sir.
can be disqualified.
And now all of that, Ken, can be tracked electronically. It has to be filed electronically, and it can be tracked electronically by going to the Secretary of State's website at voteforalabama.gov.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to find exactly what you need in order to get the information that you want.
Yeah, I have to file every year to saying, what's changed, and I do that electronically, but I've only got a certain amount of time to do it in, and
yes,
I get
sir.
a confirmation number. And,
yes, sir.
And so you know what I'm talking about, and I blame you for that. But it's nothing other than if you don't have anything to hide, I could just fill mine out saying I'm broke.
Yes, sir.
But I'm really honored that y'all are asking me all these nice questions about.
Well, and now too, you can get all of that information for every candidate at every level except for the municipal contest all across the state. That enables the individual constituent in any one of the 67 counties to have access at the place and time that they want to have access.
So if someone violates the Fair Campaign Practices Act by not filing in timely manner, it's your job to notify ethics?
Yes, sir. And now with the 2018 cycle, which began on June the 5th of this month, we now have penalties in place that are designed to restrict that type behavior from occurring. It actually puts certain penalties in place that if multiple infractions occur, it could lead to significant financial penalties that will be placed, and those resources, when collected, will go to the general fund.
Yeah, I made some notes. I'm going to get off of them, but I'm going to ask you this. One of the things that I see most of, and we just got a minute left in this segment, but the accessibility to voting, the ability to vote, the tampering down of voting, and I hear all this stuff, but I've never seen anything in all my years that where we do it. We might make it complicated, or it might make it inconvenient, but there's no. Do you know of anything like that?
No, sir, and we have not had any breaches in our system where anybody has attempted to circumnavigate the process, to dissolve the credibility or integrity of the process, and to encumber that in such a way that would bring questions for individuals throughout the state. That's not happened in Alabama. And we are very encouraged by the safeguards that we have in place, and we want to continue to make sure that we're where we need to be to ensure that we are having safe and secure elections.
Right, let's go to break. I want to pick
sir.
up there and we'll come back,
Yes,
and
sir.
we're going to talk more with the Secretary of State. Stay over there and get that pen. Welcome back to Veterans Issues, and we're still talking with the Secretary of State, John Merrill, and we were talking about the voting hindrance and all that kind of thing. But one of the things that is you see it nationally, and what are people talking about, making it hard for people to vote. And I understand, the absentee voting and all this. That seems to be like one of the things that causes the most. We got a situation here in Calhoun County going on right now, and
the Anniston Municipal Contest.
One of the parties just walked out the door right before you come in, and he said to me to ask you how many of these happen in the state where you have that.
Let me say this: we had 319 individual instances of voter fraud that were reported to us from January the 19th, 2015 until the last contest that occurred, which was on November the 8th, 2016. We're investigating each and every one of those. Of course, 169 of those have been fully adjudicated to this point, but we still have some active, as you can tell. Approximately 150 are still active.
He was wanting to know the percentage of absentee ballot.
Most of the instances that have been introduced to us have to do with absentee compliance and making sure that the absentee voter is where he or she needs to be, and to make sure that people that are taking those absentee votes are in full compliance too. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Yeah.
Are in full compliance as
You
well.
love your job so much, just get choked up.
Man.
I know what you mean. Well, they have bugs flying. But when somebody goes to the polling place,
Yes, sir.
and their name's not on the list, or they move from place to place, whatever, they still get to vote, don't they?
They can still vote, and they can vote in a provisional manner that will allow them to be able to participate. And then when it's checked against where they were supposed to vote or what they were supposed to do, at that point, it will be determined by the Board of Registrars and the provisional team as to whether or not that vote should have been counted.
Well, the one thing is to be that the voting rules that we have, that the people that's crying out say that it hampers the people, the minorities, it hampers the poor people and that kind of thing. But I don't know how hard it is to get ID, but I don't see it being that hard.
Well, Ken, look, this is the deal. We have not had a single instance reported to us where an individual has been denied access to voting because they did not have an ID that was in compliance with the standard that has been set aside by the Alabama legislature. And yet we have broken every record in the history of the state for participation. In the March 1, 2016 presidential primary, we voted more than 1.25 million, which broke every record for participation in a primary for governor or president. November the 8th, we broke every record for participation in a general election with more than 2.1 million voters, and that was for governor or president. In the history of the state, we broke every record. And not to have a single instance where anybody was denied access to the vote because they failed to show a proper ID. Now, one of the reasons for that is because we've been so diligent in going to all 67 counties to ensure that each and every person that wants an ID is able to have one. And if they can't go to the Board of Registrar's office and pick one up with Miss Carolyn and her team, if they can't go to where the mobile unit is going to be, like at Oxford Lake on July the 4th, if they can't do any of that, they can contact our office at 334-242-7200, and we will go to their homes and we will give them a photo ID at their home.
Folks, what he said was 334-242-7200. They put that Yankee stuff in there real fast on you. But July the 4th at the Oxford Lake, you'll have a mobile.
That's an example of the
that.
places where we have gone. We've also been to the Chilton County Peach Festival. We've been to the Peanut Butter Festival.
I saw you down there.
Yes, sir. We've been to the Peanut Festival.
What was you doing down at the Rattlesnake thing?
At the Rattlesnake Rodeo.
Was you doing it there?
Yes, sir. We do it wherever people will have us because we want to be accessible to the most people we can possibly be accessible to.
I told somebody yesterday, I said, our Secretary of State gets around more than anybody else. I said, one day, I saw he was in Mobile or Bay Minette, somewhere in there, and then later in the day he was at the Rattlesnake Rodeo in Opp, and then he was at a wild game thing in White Plains. And your poor wife has got to be so beat down from traveling.
But she likes to travel too because she gets to see so many different parts of Alabama, and that's the thing that really makes it special for us to be able to do that together. And so we're always thrilled whenever we're able to make those events and activities. Of course, you know I travel a lot. This will be the 5th year in a row I've been to all 67 counties at least one time. Last year, I was in all 67 counties for a total of 350 unique visits. So far this year, I've been in 39 of the 67 counties at least one time for a total of more than 200 unique visits today.
Yeah. Well, it's tempting to ask you all that, but I'm not going to ask you about your plans in the future. But I know that in the next few years, we're going to see some bigger things because on national television, that's a lot of people don't get that unless they do something wrong. But let me ask you this: coming up on we got a special election coming up here. What, August?
August 15th. Yes, sir.
United States Senator,
yes,
where
sir.
Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, his thoughts appointed Luther Strange. What are we doing there now?
Yes, sir. And of course, Senator Strange was appointed by Governor Bentley as
Right.
the temporary United States Senator until the election could be held.
Right.
Now, Senator Strange had anticipated, because of what the governor had done, that special election would not be held until June the 5th of 18.
Right.
But when Governor Ivey became governor, she set a new date, and that date is August 15th. Then if a runoff is necessary, it'll be held on September 26th. Then the general election will be held on December the 12th. And that's the day that the new senator's name will be determined. We have 8 Democrats that are running for the nomination, and we have 10 Republicans that are running for the nomination.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are they all in compliance with the fair campaign practice?
Well, as best we know. Now, let
Right.
me say this. Those issues are governed by the Federal Election Commission at the federal level. So those
Best
reports.
of your knowledge.
Yes, sir. And those reports go through the
Okay.
federal government instead of going through the state.
Yeah, because you hear everything you think that as being veterans issues. What about the military that's watching us, the spouses here? Voting overseas. Somebody's overseas right now, and you said August. That's only a month or so away.
It is, and let me tell you, one of the things we've already done, Ken, is we've reached out to our military servicemen and women, our UOCAVA voters, Uniformed Overseas Voters, to make sure that those individuals know that they have an opportunity to participate at the level that they wish. As a matter of fact, on November the 8th, 2016, when you and I cast our ballot for the presidency, we wanted to make sure that all of our military servicemen and women had already had that opportunity. So what we started was electronic ballot delivery and electronic ballot return. So anybody that's deployed overseas that's serving our country has an opportunity to receive their ballot electronically and to go to a secured website and to cast their ballot. And because of what we've done, we led the nation in voting absentee for military servicemen and women, with 84% of Alabamians that were deployed voting in the 2016 presidential election.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What is the most common thing? I'm not prepared for this, but the most common thing that people that's running for election, what is the most common thing they fail to do on your side of the house as far as compliance?
Well, I think the most common error that occurs is not adhering to published information that's already prepared for you to understand. If you follow these steps and guidelines and you meet those deadlines, then you'll be fine. But a lot of times they overlook them for whatever reason, and then they miss a deadline.
Well, we got less than a minute, but you got like when you first become eligible to vote, and then you got the 45 days, 30 days, all that is important because things change when you're running for election.
Yes,
you
sir.
could not have any money, then all of a sudden get a big.
Yes,
so
sir.
it's important to
It is.
look at those.
And we remind our people, our office holders, as well as those candidates that are running for public office, through an email reminder that the report is due at this particular time on this particular day, and we do that every time a report deadline is nearing.
Well, I thank you for coming on. We've run out of time. We could do another. I've left 2 hours of show right there left. Will you come back again?
You know I will.
All right, so you're coming through this area. Just we'll set up we'll get a camera crew in here and do a show just for you. I
Thank
really
you,
do
Ken.
appreciate
I'd
it.
love that.
And I appreciate the Secretary of State coming, dropping by, and doing this today. We'll be right back in just a minute. I got news that you can use. Get that pen. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. I appreciate the Secretary of State dropping by here today and doing the show, and I hope you got some information you can use. And if you got any questions about what you heard here today, and you didn't get the numbers, whatever, but his number, the number to call and get in touch with the Secretary of State is 334-242-7200, 7200. So appreciate that. And we got him on camera saying he'll come back, so maybe we'll get some more now. Next week, my guest is going to be a 93-year-old World War II veteran, Hillman Prestage. And Hillman was with the first wave landing at Utah Beach. He's been on here before. He wants to be my co-host, but I can't do that. But look forward to that. The 4th of July weekend, you'll be able to see that. Now, the VA hotline, I want to give you this number. That's the reason with this pen. They've set up, the new secretary has set up a hotline, and this is not just for suicide. This is for any information, anything VA. If you got anything to do with the VA, this is a new hotline number set up at the White House. And you call it when you get through, when you watch this and watch them answer the phone. 855-948-2311. 855-948-2311, and that's a hotline for the VA, and that's a new thing set up by this new secretary, and he's making some changes. Now, for those of you that are drawing unemployability benefits under the VA, and what that is, some people are 70% disabled, but they end up drawing 100% disability because they receive unemployability as a result of their injury, on-the-job injury, or their service-connected disability. There was a attempt to remove that or to take it down, some portion of it, and the secretary has dropped that. That is no longer a worry. A lot of the offices around our 67 counties were getting calls about that. So if you're watching the show, pass the word on that they don't have to worry about that. I know a lot of people that was going to be affected by that. We're getting ready to build our Firefighters Memorial, the official firefighter memorial for the state of Alabama, anyone killed in the line of duty. Hopefully by the end of this year, you'll see a work underway up in Centennial Park, be facing right across from the law enforcement memorial. So if you see work going on up there, that's what we're doing. We're going to be building the official firefighter memorial for the state of Alabama. The law enforcement tag, I got to remind you about that. This is a tag that Bill Partridge designed, and this is the revenue we get from that tag goes toward the Centennial Memorial Park. And that's it's been a blessing to us up there. It's helped us out in a lot of things. And I just got to go put a name on there on the wall. Another name that from 1942, a World War II veteran. And we're going to be able to do that because of this, the funds from this law enforcement tag. I just got the call as I was coming in the studio today. They gave me the price on what it charges to put it on there. After all these years, we'll get his name up on the memorial up there. If you got a wheelchair, if you got a veteran that no longer needs a wheelchair, I need them because I got veterans that that not are qualified for one through any system, but they use them to go to the mailbox up and down the street to visit their neighbors and things like that. So give me a holler if you got one with batteries that works good, and we'll take it off your hand and get it to the veteran in need. They tell me I'm running out of time. Veterans get that choice card. It's out there. All you got to do is make a call, go by and get it, and it'll help you a lot. You can use your local doctors and dentists and eye people, optometrists, and you don't have to go all the way to Birmingham. So it works, and go get that. Well, they tell me I'm running out of time. This week goes out to all those. This salute goes to all those that assist veterans in any way, and we'll see you next week here on Veterans Issues. Salute.